The ego made the body, the ego made the world, the ego made the cosmos, the stars, the planets. The ego made all the images, and the Holy Spirit neutralized the images. And basically now the Holy Spirit can use the body and the world in ways that help take us to undoing our belief in linear time and all the judgment. In terms of, we can't really say that that the ego made only sexuality. The ego made everything of this cosmos. So when we hand that back all over to the Holy Spirit will use everything that the mind believes in, everything that the ego is, to unwind the mind from these beliefs. But basically, I could talk about sexuality along in the same context of talking about food, because there's another one. Those are major issues, food and sexuality. What is the problem with food? What is the problem with sexuality is that they're on a continuum of preferences. Food preferences and sexual preferences, for example. And preferences are judgments. You know, in heaven there aren't food preferences. There's no food to begin with. There aren't sexual preferences in heaven because there's no bodies. But you see, everything that the ego made, this cosmos of images, it's of itself, it was handled in an instant. The instant it was made, it was all handled. But the ego turns everything into preferences and judgments. And the first teaching in the Course, actually the first principle of miracles, the other day you mentioned that there's no order of difficulty in miracles. That's the very first principle of 50. There's no order of difficulty in miracles. And a correlation of no order of difficulty in miracles is that there's no hierarchy of illusions. Well, the reason there's no hierarchy of illusions is because they're all the same. You know, one illusion is the same, it's unreal. You can't have good unreal and bad unreal. You can't have pleasant unreal and unpleasant unreal. Beautiful, we were talking about art, somebody raised art the other day. Beautiful unreal and ugly unreal. You know, you see, you start to put it in that way, you start to realize that's what the trick is all these hierarchies. So, ultimately, it's the preferences that the Holy Spirit knows that there's ego preferences. So the Holy Spirit, if you give your heart and soul over and say, use me in the plan of awakening and help me unwind from this judgment, the Holy Spirit will use what you believe in. So, like if you have sexual preferences, we'll say, to be heterosexual or various sexual preferences or various food preferences or various climate preferences or whatever, the Spirit has to use those to unwind you from them all, because you won't know the kingdom of heaven as long as you believe in judgments, and preferences are actually judgments. So we don't try to lead with the form. A lot of times in spirituality, with ashrams and monasteries and convents, you know, you have to take a vow of celibacy, for example, you were asking about, and that would be saying no sex. You know, that's the forbidden thing, you know, as far as celibacy, no sex. But it's still, if you had sexual desires and you were trying to control at the form level, you would just get into repression and denial. And I think a lot of you know that with the Catholic Church, with the priests and everything, and all the problems that they've had with children, and I mean the lawsuits, the many lawsuits. For example, with the Catholic Church, it was trying to lead with the form and hoping that the consciousness will follow. And Jesus is not teaching us in the Course to lead with the form and hope our consciousness will follow. He's saying, work with me, do these daily lessons, keep practicing at forgiveness, and then lo and behold, your mind will be purified. That's, you know, miracles are everyone's right, but purification is necessary first. So it's a purification from the inside, so to speak, from within your consciousness, and then your behavior just follows from that. And the Course is not judging the behavior at all, not judging that this is better than